Hey guys, this is Dave again with Valor Fire Training, and in this week's episode of Q&A, we have Robert Piparo, better known as Pip, from 555 Fitness.
What's up?
What is up? So, for those of you that don't know, Pip is actually still a firefighter, and he does go to fires every once in a while.
Just 14 hours ago, believe it or not. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I get to say that, right? So I sound like a big city fireman when I'm like, let's do a job yesterday.
And that's you and I have talked about this before. You have your 555 Fitness persona and the trademark mohawk that you're very well known for. But I think a lot of people forget that you're still a fireman, and we still have jobs to do, no matter what our side deal is. And so,
yeah, I mean that was some of the craziness too early on. Like, that's what started 555 was being a firefighter, for sure, and my interest into having me find the Facebook page and having a romance with Larry from Texas and just getting us to where we were. But then there was a time where I guess the fitness world, I guess it's an easy way to put it, because I've kind of have the fitness world on one side, the fire world colliding. People in the fitness world were like, so like, what do you do with 555? Like, how does your business work? And I'm like, it's not for profit. Like, I'm a fireman. I go work on a fire engine. I'm a lieutenant. And they're like, wait, what do you mean you're a lieutenant on a fire engine? Like, that's like you volunteer for that. And I'm like, no, I volunteer
that's
for
my paid gig.
Yeah, my paid gig, my real job is going to work. And it kind of started something that I do. I don't do it every shift because I guess it's a little annoying. But on Instagram, I do on for 24, hashtag on for 24, because it's like I go to work to show some of these fitness folks out there that like I go to this job. I'm a fireman at heart. That's first and foremost, no matter what.
Yeah, and I think kind of a side note from what we're going to talk about, but I mean, I think in today's world of social media, it would be very easy for you through Instagram and some of the other social media outlets now to focus solely on fitness, and you could be very successful at that outside of the fire service. But I still go back to the people that have a dedication and a love and a passion for the fire service. You're still doing it, and it's still your passion. The fitness stuff is great, but you really like going to work, and I love that about you.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's. I mean, it's yeah, that's it. I mean, and two, I mean, Greg, we're going to go off on a tangent. This is how this rolls, right? When you do things like
absolutely,
this,
man.
Right? But so I've been in the social media game for a little while now. 555's been around 7 years, I think. Sorry, my dog is being really annoying. Where's your ball, baby? Come here. But I've been in the social media world now, and one thing that doesn't fly in my eyes is when you have people who use being a firefighter to be in the fitness world, right, or to be in the business world or whatever other world you want to be, and to me, I'm a student first and foremost of the fire service. And when I became a paramedic, we talked before we came on about disease processing and things.
Oh yeah.
Same with social media. I've been a student of social media. And I'm not here to call people or pages out, but listen, when you're out there playing the game, whatever you want to call it, I know what's going on. I know there's a lot of other people that don't, but I've been down that road. I've met a lot of them, tried to work with a lot of them, and hey, man, you do you, but it's that balance you need in the middle.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I reached out to you because I had a question that was kind of related to fitness. And I know we're going to talk about that, but then I also want to talk about fire stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be a cool, podcast unless we actually talk about fire stuff too.
So if you're listening, don't leave. We're going to talk about fitness for a little bit, then we're going to talk about cool fire stuff.
And then we're going to dive into cool fire stuff.
Maybe you'll pick something up on the fitness talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the question that we had comes from Jeremy, and he is in Arizona. And his question was, I find it hard to be motivated to work out while I'm on shift. My crew doesn't routinely work out together. In fact, some of us don't work out at all on duty. We're all physically fit. We're capable of doing the job. But when I'm at work, I find it hard to find the motivation to go downstairs and actually work out. How do you stay motivated? And what's your motivation to be physically fit while on duty? And I think it's a very specific, kind of like you and I talked, like I'm a bigger dude, but I still work out. I'm still capable of doing the job. There are some limitations that I have as far as like I'm not going to be the attic rat, right? Like you're not going to put me up in an attic. Um, but
Ta-da! Here I
but
come.
but yeah, I mean, as far as working out on duty, like my crew, there's the dead setters that are always down in the basement from a certain time every day, no matter if it's a weekend or a holiday. And then there's those of us that just kind of work out when we can. And so, how do you feel like? And I want you to kind of take the lead on this. How do you stay motivated? How do you get other people to be motivated? How do you kind of get because I know it's a mental game for sure.
Yeah, it's hard. How about that? Let's start with that. Jeremy, it is hard. Motivation to be physically fit, not just for firefighters, but for society is hard. And hey, here we are. It's 2020. It's been even harder, right? I mean, this year is yeah, whatever. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, but it's a really hard thing. And I think to really directly answer Jeremy's question is that you can't get so one way about this. Come here, Clarice, that you have to work out on duty to be fit, to be a good firefighter. It's if we put it in firefighting terms, like it's kind of like saying, you know, I I ride on an engine. I'm an engine company lieutenant. Okay. I do not know everything there is to know about nozzles. I know what my nozzle does that we carry. I know how it works. The water comes out and we put out the fire. And I'm a very happy engine guy knowing that, right?
Yeah.
So people think when it comes to fitness, well, I need to be this ultimate fitness firefighter and be down in the gym every day that I'm on duty. And I need to be there and doing it this way or doing it that way. And that's where I think people lose their motivation. Because personally, more recently than not, I work out less on duty than I have ever in the past.
Right.
And there's multiple factors for that. One was definitely when I got promoted. There's a dynamic, and I'm not in a very big department, but there's a dynamic that changes with the guys when you go from friend to boss or whatever, kind of how you want to comment on it. And I didn't even pick up on it, but I definitely started working out less with the guys and more on my own when that changed.
Yeah.
And then you have like just the daily grind of work. You have to keep that in mind that this is your job and being physically fit for your job is a big deal. But there's just days where I'm not going to get there because yesterday we did firefighter survival training in the morning. Then we had to go on a detail. Then we had a call. Then I had a meeting in the afternoon, and by the time it got to be 3-4 o'clock, I was watching Forged in Fire on A&E with the boys. You know what I mean? But today, on my 72 off, we work a 24/72 here. I know everybody hates me for it. I'm going to hit it hard, and then tomorrow I'm going to hit it hard. And the next day I'm going to hit it hard. And you can use those work days as your rest days if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a really good point. And it was, again, at the sake of, sounding like a fitness snob, I guess. I very early on, I grew up in a department where every shift from 4 to 5:30, you had to go work out. It was mandatory. I mean, everybody went. It was just that's the culture. Everybody went to the gym. Everybody grabbed a radio and went out for a run. Whatever you wanted to do, you had to be doing something. And as I progressed through my career, I started being exposed to other agencies where they're like, listen, if you guys go do hose testing in the morning, you're getting an upper body workout. That's your workout for the day. And so it was more geared towards making sure you're staying physically active. And so maybe we would just do the cardio component rather than the lifting part. And so I think, you're dead on with the statement of, you can't hold yourself to the standard. And if you don't meet it, just bash yourself, which I kind of feel is where Jeremy is coming from. He feels bad, like he's neglecting himself because he's not working out on duty.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's saying, he used the words, lacking motivation. Well, I don't really know that he's not motivated. Now, if he's not doing anything on his days off, that's where we sort of have to say like, well, then we have some motivation problems, where you have to find that why, and you have to find your personal why. Even though we all sort of share whys, being emergency services providers, and that's the people we work with, our families, the people that call us when they're in need. But even that, I don't want to say it gets old after a while because it should never get old, right? But
Right.
you may have to find something else where it may be, hey, I want to do something faster than the next guy, or I want to lose some weight, or maybe I want to put on some weight. You know, you have to find whatever your motivation is and understand that it's going to change. I mean, I had different motivation when I was a 25-year-old rookie than I have now as a 42-year-old lieutenant, but I still have it. I still found out what it is and how I can better myself with it. So when we're talking motivation, that's for sure something you have to keep chasing. You know, that I use it a lot better than yesterday. You know, if you
Yeah.
can be, and even something not new to me, but just recently I've been talking about this a lot. I'm just so proud of this guy Chris with Down syndrome who did an Ironman triathlon.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, and look, I did an Olympic distance triathlon. I guess Finn was born, so let's just say 10 years ago. I think Finn was there. Yeah, he rang the little bell. So, and I trained for it, and I had goals, Ironman by 40. After that Olympic distance triathlon, I'm like, this is not for me. Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
swim was the worst experience of my life. Like, people kicked me in the face in the water. I crashed into a lifeguard kayak. Didn't even know where I was like totally lost and disoriented. So when I look at Chris and doing that goal, that's my motivation.
Yeah.
Probably not to be an Ironman, but to be 1% better each day. Come on, come on.
Yeah.
So when we think about motivation, we always have to look for what's going to motivate us and how we're going to change. Give me 1 second. Let me just let her out real quick.
No, you're all right. You're all right.
This is like the craziest podcast ever. Hold on. What's up, Dave? What is up? You can come around my house with me. Join me.
Perfect.
Is this your first time ever moving in a podcast?
You know what?
It
is, but this is a 2020 podcast. This is the Rona version, so we're good.
Yep. So when we talk about that motivation, it's just like this. What do? We adapt and overcome, right?
Yeah.
Last night I pulled up to a working house fire, first due engine, reported to all the other companies. I got a plug. Plug was right in front of the house. Literally, no cars. Plug. This never happens to me. We pull off. We stretch our blitz nozzle. We're getting ready to hit the hydrant, and the service feed from the delta exposure drops. Had myself or any of my guys been at the hydrant, our helmets would have been lit up with electricity.
Yeah.
So what do? We adapt and overcome. And that's what you have to look at it for fitness when it comes to motivation, is like consistently adapting, consistently overcoming, consistently changing how you're gonna continue. And being we're specifically talking about on-duty fitness and fitness in the station and things like that, you kind of mentioned before, like, oh, if you guys are going out to do hose testing, that could be your fitness for the day. And maybe a lot of people out there don't do their own hose testing, because I know there's companies out there that do it, but we test our own hose.
Yep.
So that's 1,000 feet of 5-inch we carry on our engine, 800 feet of 3-inch, 550 feet of 1 3/4. I don't know, and 400 feet of 2-inch plus extra hose that's just laying around in high rise. You're dragging that hose. That's a workout. I don't need to work out that day. And that's even with my whole shift participating, but everybody's dragging hose or lifting hose or doing stuff. So for someone like Jeremy, like, think about that and turn your training into your fitness for the day.
Yeah. And I think there's so many people that lose that, because, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I've been in firehouses where they have, it's the Taj Mahal of gyms. And then I've been in other firehouses where there's like the one bench press bench with like, a couple 45-pound weights, and that's it. And so, you can't sit there and say like everybody's going to be able to work out every single day. Even at my department, it becomes kind of a struggle of just scheduling, because we only have a small gym for 5 guys at the station. How are you going to schedule that if all 5 of us want to work out for an hour? And so, yeah, I love that concept of integrating the training with the physical fitness. One of the things that came up in my career kind of early on, just being obviously a bigger dude, was, and I'll ask you kind of your opinion on it, but I was always gauging myself against everyone else. And so whether it's, how much air I use out of my bottle, or, if I'm going up that stairwell, making a push with the hose, am I getting winded before the other guys? How soon do we go to rehab? who's the first one to check out and be like, hey, I need to go to rehab. And so I was constantly gauging myself against everyone else. And what I found was that I actually surprised myself. There were times where we'd have a 45-minute bottle and a 30-minute bottle sitting in the yard, and all the guys would look at me and be like, hey, man, you can take the 45-minute bottle if you want. And I'm like, what? Is that a fat joke? Like,
Wait
what?
a minute. Yeah. What the?
Yeah. And so, but I routinely use less. And even to this day, I routinely use less air out of my bottle than some of the dudes that go work out every day. And so, how do you gauge yourself against you specifically? And then for Jeremy, how do you gauge yourself against your crew to kind of figure out where you're at and what you need to focus on?
So that's sort of one of the things that I learned when I was more involved in the CrossFit community, because I had always, I shouldn't say always, but like when I got into CrossFit, I was put into a class with people that were way fitter than me. I had in the first CrossFit gym that I went to, I guess I was like in the middle age bracket of people, my early 30s, early 30s, yeah, early 30s, yeah. There was a kid that I worked out with who was 21, a collegiate athlete with Rutgers, and going to CrossFit regionals. So for the CrossFit world, that's a big deal to make it
Yeah.
to regionals, right? So he is a fire breather. And then, we had a 60-year-old woman in the gym with us, right? So here I am, middle of the road person. And I like to describe it as the tortoise and the hare, right? When you're working out with a large group of people, you're always the tortoise chasing someone else. And then you're always the hare in the lead of someone else and having someone chase you. So you have to gauge yourself in that type of a mentality that someone's always trying to be better than you and you're always trying to be better than someone else. But that's okay. In the fire service, we don't like to say that's okay.
Right.
We all have to be the best. I work on the best engine company in the country. I got the best crew ever. It's okay to say that, but I'm always trying to be better than my guys. And I hope that they're always trying to be better than me at things like an air consumption drill. That's one of my favorite things to do is just throw on the pack and breathe down a bottle and try to go longer than you did last time. I don't care who finishes first. I don't care who taps out first because it could have a bad day that day. Everybody has different things. It's just that mentality that you're always faster than someone else and you're always a little slower than someone else. So just keep rolling in it that way. And that's going to keep you going. Because if you're like, I'm the worst, well, what's that going to do repetitively? If you're
Yeah.
always the worst, your motivation is going to go down and you're just going to get worse. Flip side, look at my buddy. He made it to CrossFit regionals, but the first time he went there, he finished last. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things that like,
it's a new pond.
50 of the fittest people in the region, put them together, someone's going to be last. I actually know 2 people that finished last at CrossFit regionals. I guess maybe they shouldn't be my friends. Now that I think about it that way,
You're like, wait a minute.
maybe I was the problem with that, but that's the thing, right? You go into that bigger pond, and it's the same with firefighting, and especially too with seeing more on the internet. Someone's always going to throw that ladder better than you. Yeah. But if you're out there trying to throw that ladder, I'll take it, because you're going to make yourself better and get there. So I think that's kind of the way I feel about that for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that analogy. I've actually not heard that before as far as the tortoise and the hare and being chased and followed. I think that's spot on. So one of the things that I struggle with, and it sounds like Jeremy struggles with it too. I've for a long time I was doing the same exact workout. Like I had a schedule and I knew in
back
a month.
And test and tries.
Dude, it was horrible. It was horrible. And
we've all been there. No one can deny that.
Yeah. So what are some tips that you have as far as finding new workouts, whether it's new WODs or new, whatever it is that person's looking for, where can they go to find new and exciting ways of keeping it fresh?
The interwebs for sure. You know what I mean? So when I teach my class for the state of New Jersey, one of the ending slides I have, it's Google in like the claw drop box,
yeah,
right? With all these just different websites in there. And that's kind of like what the internet is, right? There's just different workouts out there and you can find anything. You can find some great workouts. You can find some horrible workouts, right? But I like to try new things. And having that open-mindedness to say, hey, I'm not going to be that chest and tries, back and buys, like I definitely had a good time with those muscle and fitness magazine workouts way back in the day that I was doing. But if I was still doing them now, I would be so bored with my life.
Yeah.
So you need to look out there and you need to see what other people are doing. And I think with 555, when we started, we were putting out the programming we like to do, but that morphed into, I mean, sandbags is a great example of that for me. I mean, when the dude from Brute Force threw me my first sandbag, I'm like, sandbag, this thing weighs,
Yeah.
I could put 65 pounds in this. Like, bro, I'm throwing around a barbell at 135 right now on a regular. Like, here's your little sandbag thing. And it's funny. I worked out with a guy who's a career firefighter in Wildwood, Jim Garral. We worked out on the boardwalk in Wildwood. He had a little setup down there with a CrossFit gym. And
Nice.
I filled the sandbag to max weight, 75 pounds. So I'm like, whatever, it's a little sandbag. It's sand, right? It's just sand. I use a 135-pound dumbbell. And whatever, here I go. I don't even think we made it halfway through the workout, and I took the 25-pound filler bag out because I was like,
Yeah.
this is horrible. Like, it was a horrible workout because he was like, oh, it's Pip from 555 Fitness. We're going to crush him today, which they did, which was fun.
Right.
But if I would have never tried, I would have never learned, and there's so many cool things out there. Before I got into CrossFit, I did kettlebells.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what is this kettlebell Russian thing?
Yeah.
And then the dude who was my trainer at the time was like, this is what they used for 300. Like the actors in 300, they did kettlebell training. And I'm like, jackpot, I'm in. Let's like, right? Because there's that vanity end of fitness that we can't not talk about.
Yeah.
But these kettlebells are amazing. Steel mace for firefighters now. My buddy Fred from Elizabeth is Mr. Steel Mace Nation. And I worked out with him and I'm like, this contraption, I'm never going to put this in my house because I can't swing it behind me because I'll knock out a 7-year-old as I'm doing it, running around behind me. But I used it and was like, this is awesome. So you have to try things. You have to be very open-minded. And you have to be okay with trying things and being like, nah, this sandbag crap is not for me because it may not be for you.
So truth be told, and I'm gonna let everybody watching in on a little secret. So Pip, you are the reason why I bought a Brute Force sandbag. And I was like, man, I'm watching all these videos and you're like dragging it back and forth in the bay in between the trucks. And I'm like, man, that's kick ass. Like, this will be really fun. And I'm going to do it. I can't tell you how many, and you and I had never actually met before. I was mother effering you for like a week because I'm like, this is bullshit. This is horrible. But as you start working on it, yeah. But the cool thing is, it is very applicable. And I found, the kettlebell, the sandbags, even though I don't use them at work, I use them at home and my kids use them. It's super applicable to what we do, whether it's throwing a high rise pack on your shoulder or dragging a victim. Even when I got more comfortable with like the child carry, where I'm crawling, but I'm holding that bait.
That child carry on your knee. When the night I watched it, now I can't remember the guy's name, so I feel like a tool. But I watched his video on Facebook, and I'm like, I could do that with a sandbag.
Yeah.
And me and my boys were out in the gym making a video. And before I posted it, I actually messaged him and I'm like, hey man, I don't want to blow up your spot, but I'm going to steal your move and I'm going to show people how to do it with a sandbag. Is that cool with you? Like, and actually I sent him the sandbag. I got him the sandbag just for being so cool with it. But yeah, like that kind of stuff, right? Think outside the box. And we go back to Jeremy. I don't even know who this Jeremy guy is, but I'm using his name all the time, right?
Right.
But, dude, if you throw that sandbag into the mix while you're at work and you guys start playing around with it, like we did at my work, I did with people from 555 around the country, you pick up all these little things, where you could do that child carry. It's like throwing the high-rise bag over your shoulder.
Yep.
For me, with sandbags specifically, so they have handles on them, right? And I love to use the handles, but there's times where you need to grip the bag.
Yeah.
And when you do I know you do a lot of Mayday training and things. And, if you're removing a down firefighter, you're gripping their body and it feels like that bag because your body's going to have movement. Your gear is going to have extra material in it. And just think about that for motivation. right? Like I'm
Yeah.
deep in that workout and I'm like, can I keep going? And I grab that bag and I think about, what if this is a victim? What if this is a firefighter? I need this grip strength. I need this pulling strength. And that alone is just this added benefit to a really cool workout tool that just happens to work for us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the grip strength thing, you talk about that. Um, and I'm going to name drop some guys out of Kansas City, Missouri, but Chad Daly, the guys from O'Byrne, um, Paul Varon, they'll take a webbing strap and they'll actually put it down through their coat across their shoulder, and they have the loop basically just sitting right at the end of their wristlet. So if they go to make a grab, they'll pull it and they loop it through the other wrist so that they have something to hold on to. So you're not,
Oh,
necessarily
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
strength, right? Super cool. They showed it to me a couple years ago. I started using it in my gear. It's been a game changer for me. But it came out of that, it's a department that makes multiple grabs at single fires. And so after a while, you think about your grip strength and having to be able to work on that. It wasn't something that I thought about until I started using the bag, where I was like,
Yeah.
man, I can keep going, but my hands can't keep going.
That was
And
the first
so,
thing I realized with like getting into doing more like sandbag training, and even with kettlebells too. But like being at a fire, whether I'm on the engine, I'm on the truck, my hands, even in extrication, if you're using that tool and you're holding it, your forearms and your hands, like the
yes.
first thing to go. And so if we jump back to my like regular workout days, maybe I did some wrist curls. You grab that little easy curl bar and you were like, oh, let me just work on my forearms.
Yeah.
Where with a sandbag, every workout is forearms and grip, no matter
Yeah.
what you're doing, unless you're back squatting it, which I love to do because you just lay it on your shoulders. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have to hold anything today, but you're using those hands and forearms. And that's literally the first thing to go, especially in the cold. And when
Yes.
it's cold at a fire, your hands are just like, it's just a great tool to use. So I like that trick with the webbing though. I don't know.
Yeah, so
I
I'm
mean,
going to be interviewing Chad here in a couple days, and that's one of the things that I want to talk with him about. It's something that I mean, everybody carries webbing in your pocket, but we all know in a real fire, you're not going to be digging through your pocket and be like, hold on a second, let me get past all my tools and grab your webbing.
I'm gonna
So
make this loop with my hands and things.
yeah, and so it was really, I mean, they had talked about it before at a conference that we were at, and it was pretty cool. And so
Yeah,
there's been a couple different iterations of it. They've tried the DRD strap uh, across the shoulder and then through the sleeve, and then they kind of settled on webbing as well. I'm using just 2-inch webbing, and it's spot on, man.
yeah, definitely. And too, like anybody can make a grab, but like I'm thinking about like the truck guys on my department because that's their task with search and rescue. Our officer and the C person who sits behind him, they're automatic search and rescue. If
Yeah.
they're going in, that's what they're doing. You're sitting in that seat. That's a good place to have it. And it's funny you mentioned the webbing. Just yesterday on shift, the rookies and I were talking. We did some entanglement training stuff earlier.
Hmm.
Just talking about different stuff, and they were talking about webbing and carrying their own rope and things. And I'm like, look, I'm gonna tell you right now, the webbing that I keep in my pants pocket, I use that the most to secure a door.
Yeah.
Like just to get if you're not taking the screen door off the hinges, and again, that doesn't always happen. I could throw that webbing through, and my rookie's like, "Oh, that fire we had on this street." He's like, "I noticed that was that way," and I'm like, "Yeah, you're welcome. You didn't notice while you were putting your mask on. That's what I was doing, and then put
Yeah.
my mask on and came in right after you." But like, those are the things that you think about and you pick up. These little tips and tricks, and it's the same with fitness. You pick up these tips and tricks easily by watching internet videos. Um, and you'll know in the fitness world who's doing it for aesthetics and who's doing it for more like this is the way to go.
Yeah.
So that gets you motivated as well. And I'm not going to necessarily complain about some of the folks that are doing it for aesthetics because their videos aren't that bad to watch, let's say. But you have to pick up what's real for you. And like you said with the sandbag, I mean, there are people out there. Well, you can search hashtag 555fitness. You can't see the recent posts right now due to Instagram rules of whatever. Again, not going that road. But you'll see definitely people using sandbags in different ways, using kettlebells,
Yeah.
steel mace, even dumbbells. So the programming that I follow now. It's called Street Parking, and they offer a different workout every day. And there's almost always an option for dumbbells, barbell, sandbag, or complete body weight.
Oh wow.
So it's total garage gym. They call it street parking because you don't park your car in your garage because that's where your gym is. You have to
Yep.
park it on the street. Um, and the things I've learned from them about using dumbbells, and I think I use dumbbells now more than I use sandbags, definitely more than I use a barbell.
That's awesome.
But I use dumbbells and I'm getting a great workout, doing just crazy things with dumbbells. And so much so, we just actually, the last 555 grant, we just awarded, we got a set of 5 to 55-pound dumbbells for the department in Louisiana, just so they can get into that kind of stuff.
That's
So
awesome.
dumbbells are not just for curling, even though, curls are for the girls and you got a fist pump in New Jersey here and all those things that I fall into, because I'm definitely Friday night if I'm going out, which no one's doing right now.
Yeah,
But,
nobody's going out right now, bro.
before the Mohawk was hitting the club, man, you got to hit a couple bicep curls with that dumbbell. That's okay too. I mean, if you could stop on the way to the engine and just get a few before you hit the job, you may make the paper, but you can do so much more with dumbbells. Don't just get in that one mindset.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So that's a really good segue to firefighting stuff. Let's talk about fire stuff for a second. um, so you and I had kind of had discussions, and we've talked before over the years about, I'm in the Midwest. The way that we fight fire is definitely not how you guys fight fire in New Jersey.
Not even sure where the Midwest is, so it's that kind of. Well, I have looked at a map recently a lot. I've been studying a map. So
Yeah,
it's that area that goes this way, right?
it's right. Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
okay.
It's just like that. So, it's funny because I find myself kind of emulating some of the East Coast stuff, and I'm super envious of the 1075 radio call. There's just certain things about the East Coast that I find myself like, God, I really wish we would have that here in the Midwest. So my question to you is there stuff that we do here in the Midwest that you guys are like, damn, that's actually really smart? Or are we just like the only ones that want to be like East Coasters?
Oh man, now you're gonna put me on the spot. I gotta think of something, right? Like, I think from what I pick up, and again, I'm really fortunate, right? Because I'm like you. I got to work the circuit, when the circuit existed, and meet people from around the world. And when I started in 555, I was just this little, lowly New Jersey firefighter guy. Oh, where did you put your ball now, dog? Hang on, Dave. Just this lowly little New Jersey firefighter guy, right? That knew New Jersey and knew how we did things here, emulating New York City in a way, because that's a big city, right?
Right.
So I've picked up a lot of things about how you guys do more with even less. It's something that I know I've studied. The fact that where I work, I'm usually to a call within 4 to 5 minutes tops, with the second due being 2 minutes behind us.
Right.
Well, now I'm telling guys that I work with, like, I met some people, it takes them 12 minutes to get to the call, and their second due is another 12 minutes behind them because there's just so much expanse in the Midwest, right? New Jersey is definitely a very populous place. So to think about what you guys are doing out there, and maybe not necessarily where you are, but in that area, that's definitely something that I look at and I'm like, guys, we got it good. Think about those fires where maybe the second dude's delayed in traffic or is on another call and not coming. That's what these guys are dealing with all the time.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. It actually made me, when you were telling that story, it kind of made me think about Al Benjamin, who was a firefighter on Rescue One in Manhattan. When I went there, I got to meet him, and as I was kind of discussing and talking with him, super nice guy, and everybody at the house was super cool. I didn't want to be intrusive, and so I just stopped by and said, "Hey, it's an obligatory picture. I got to get it." I told him that I was a firefighter from Kansas. And he was like, "Oh, so where do you work? Like, what's your demographics like?" And we started talking, and he was like, "Man," he's like, "my hat's off to you." And I was like, "For what?" Like, bro, I'm looking in Manhattan, and I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Dude, when I show up to work," he goes, "I know I'm the driver for the day. I know I'm irons. I know I'm on the outside vent or the roof or whatever." He goes, "When you guys show up to work, you have to John Wayne it. Like, you might not have enough people to do all those jobs. So you have to do outside vent and roof and irons and, and you're driving the truck for the day. And it's like, yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. It's
Yeah,
just,
I mean, dude, we all kind of when you think of even in compared to my department with the FDNY, when I got to go to Hawaii with all the guys from the FDNY for Trucker's funeral, at one point we were all hanging out in the house and talking, and I'm like, guys, there are more people in Hawaii right now from New York City than I work with
yeah,
on my tour regularly. And they get like 62 dudes on their second alarm. I'm like, I
yes,
get a 4-man fast team. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, I can't get a 4-man fast team. Like, where's your second truck? I'm like, no, it's coming from a volley station, but they go cover. We need them to do cover assignments in case there's another call.
yeah,
Like, so when you think about things like that and how it is, and then I say people are even more stretched thin, where it's John Wayne time. You run a 3-man company all the time. You're this, you're that. So I've seen that the expanse that you guys have is just so different.
yeah,
And learning not just even more Midwest, but wildland firefighting. The things I've learned about that on this journey, I'm like, I don't want to do that job ever. Like,
yeah,
keep me. I'll stick to the brush fire, like, or the mulch. I'm like, we go on mulch fires. We take a bucket and we fill it from the engine and we just pour it on there. That's how we put the mulch out. It works really well for us.
yeah. So I went to high school with a guy named Casey Sandusky, and he does wildland stuff now. He flies around in helicopters and does stuff out in Colorado. And it's like, just watching some of the stuff that he puts on social media, I'm like, no, you
Yeah,
could put me in a burning house any day of the week, and I'd be fine with that. You put me in the middle of a burning forest, and I'm out. Like, I don't want to have
yeah.
anything.
And the fact that, and two, it's stuff that you can learn from these things, right? And I know I've taken lessons. I was, again, dude, I feel like I talk myself up here with things I've gotten to do, right? Because of 555, but I got to go to do the Hot Shots 19 hike in Prescott, Arizona.
Yeah,
And I was very fortunate enough to be able to do it with Eric Marsh's widow, Amanda, on the hike with us.
that's so
And we had a wildland firefighter with us. And when we were at there, first off, if no one's done it and you're in the area, go. It's a great day hike for sure. And it's a very solemn place. I can compare their memorial to like being in Arlington is the easiest way to most people. The fact that we were there with Amanda added to that solemnness. But when you're there and I'm looking around at where it is and you're looking up and this guy's explaining that everything around them was on fire because conditions changed. And I'm like, that's a flashover. I was like,
yeah,
but you didn't have, I mean, I'm sure the smoke changed and everything changed, but the signs that I look for a flashover, they were looking for something else. So learning what that is and comparing it to my job here in New Jersey, that is invaluable knowledge. And that's to the part of being a firefighter that's true inside of me is just this ever changing knowledge that we get. Same with fitness, the same with it all. It's not always going to be the same. Those are the comparisons that I love.
absolutely. Well, and again, with being on the circuit, going to meet other people and having the opportunity to travel the country, in talking to some rural urban interface departments, it was, here in Kansas, when we have grass fires, we would go get them. I mean, when we pull up, and as me as a company officer or being in command, when I see a grass fire, I'm like, yeah, let's go in the field and let's go get it. And so, in talking to guys and gals that do a lot of wildland stuff, they're like, Dave, why don't you just let it burn to you? And then it's less work. And then you just cut a path. And I'm like, I never actually really thought about that. And they're like, it's so much easier. And so when we started trying it, we're like, oh my God, this actually worked. Right. So, I mean, I would have never known that had I not had the
Yeah.
opportunity to go spend time.
It's so funny. So when I met Larry, the captain who founded 555 and from Texas, he's a Fort Worth captain. And he was talking to me about grass fires. I'm like, bro, what do you mean? Like you pull up and the lawn's on fire? Like you put the lawn out? It's a grass fire, like the lawn. I'm thinking of the square lawn that we have
Yeah.
in the suburban areas that we respond to, like your front lawn. And he's like, oh, Pip. And then, this big Texas drawl, like, oh, Pip, I'm talking about hundreds of acres of grass, son. Like, we have grass
Yeah.
fires that burn for 2-3 days. And I'm like, Oh, I didn't know grass like that existed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and when I look at the East Coast, it's really funny because when we talk about here, my district is made up of residential. I have a ton of industrial. We have a couple high-rise apartments, and so when we look at the East Coast mentality, uh, it's funny to me that when we pull up on fires, I watch the East Coast kind of mindset, and it's like, man, as soon as you hear those air brakes, you start hearing the outriggers come out on the aerials, and you see dudes pulling lines to the door. And if they don't need them, they'll pack them back on the truck. It's fine. But and then here in the Midwest, it's like, nah, we'll go upstairs and find out what's on fire first, and then we'll decide if we're going to put the aerial up. And it's like, I think maybe we could put the stick up a little sooner. If we don't need it, we can always put it away. Um,
I had a lot going on last night at the fire we pulled up to. I was first due, but eventually when things started kind of calming down a little bit more, and I looked over and there's the truck and the aerial's up, and it was power lines. They weren't doing any aerial work where it was, but they had the aerial up. You know what I mean? Like, because we could have worked over the lines if it went to the exposure,
yeah,
and we would have had to if it went to the exposure to prevent it going to the next exposure, because there's an East Coast problem, a northeast coast problem for sure. Is you pull up to one house on fire, and even we got toned out for a dwelling fire, um, putting our gear on, we already got the alert tone, we're getting multiple calls on this, so to us that's, we're going to work, pulling out of the bay, two houses on fire is the next alert tone. So two houses on fire becomes three houses on fire,
yeah.
um, sometimes four and five. I'm not some of my prouder moments, but sometimes four and five. We did last night at this fire, we kept it to the main fire building, but that exposure building, 3-foot alley, pulled up a little bit of fire on the outside. And you know how before wood is going to go, if you're watching your fire pit and it starts to steam,
Yep.
we had the steam coming off, and it's coming off in the roof where you don't want it to come off, right? And you're like,
Uh,
oh, please don't get into that roof. Like, this is not going to be good. But those are the things that we deal with. And I think we have to appreciate the way we do things, just like you appreciate the way you do things, and we have that for each other. And that's the cool part of the fire service too. And traveling on that circuit is you meet these different folks. And look, even we're in New Jersey, I don't do it the same as Eckert does in Camden, because he's got a
right.
whole different landscape going on down there than I have.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of stuff the same, and we can learn from each other. And that's the key, is learning from each other about this.
Well, and I think too with like social media and even this Q&A session thing that we started doing, I've gotten so many messages from people, and it's been so awesome to be like, hey, I'm in this small town in the middle of nowhere, and I've always had this question, and you asked it to somebody, and I got the answer that I was looking for, and I thank you for that. But even with me, like one of my proudest moments, kind of relating to that, looking at how everybody else does it, whether it's West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, down South, doesn't matter. When I started here in Kansas, we didn't routinely throw ground ladders. It just wasn't. I mean, if we were going to go do a vent or search, we would, but otherwise, you just never did. And so now, almost every single fire I've run on my volunteer department, whether it's mutual aid, our own department area, man, by the time I go inside and start hitting the fire and come back out, every window has a ladder on it. And it's like, you just have to sit back for a second and think to yourself, like, holy crap, that didn't happen 10 years ago. So that's a huge
Yeah.
culture change. And I know
So I'm ready to go on that one, because I've never gotten to talk about the topic of this ladders and throwing ladders, right?
yeah, let's do it, man.
Let's get so this is this. See, I'm all excited. I'm jumping up in my chair and things. So I see this, right? Because I watch the internet and I see pictures of fires where there's ladders at every window, because someone said put ladders at every window, and I'm like, what are you guys doing there? You mean to tell me you have so many people that it was someone's job to go and find all these ladders, put them at listen, a ladder on each side, I'm totally down for,
Yeah.
A ladder, you have a Division 2 fire, ladders to Division 2 windows for sure. I mean, you see videos on the internet of people, they got a ladder, it's like this to the first floor window that's 4 foot up, and they got a 14-foot roof ladder going there because someone said do this. Or you see, currently now as an engine guy, you see ladders on top of lines because someone said on the internet, throw ladders. some guy stood at FDIC on a big stage and his videos everywhere now, and he's saying ladders everywhere. You need ladders and ladders. Well, let's dial that back a little bit. Let's throw ladders for purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do I need a ladder to the third foot, or like as Eckert, the 2.5 story, but
Yep.
the little peak roof window that even
A little octagon.
Yeah. Even Pip is I'm streamlined, man. I am streamlined when it comes to fitting through things. Is not fitting through. So when you talk about that, it's great that people are doing it, but keep it in perspective. What you're doing is the way I look at it. Like, my guys don't. My ladder guys got a ladder, but they don't need a ladder everywhere. They need to be moving on to the next step.
Sure. So, and you bring up a great point, and I'll at least tell you how I do it, and we can kind of compare notes.
Yeah.
But when I teach that, when I talk about it, not just in my department, but outside with Valor fire training, you're absolutely right. And I think for so long everybody was just ladder, 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 which was better than what we were doing, which was you got to go to a ladder or a window and then wait for the ladder. So it was kind of the opposite end of the pendulum. The way that we teach it and the way that we've done it in our own department is every room, for the sake of discussion, every room should have at least one ladder. So, if we're looking at, a 2-story single family dwelling, if you know that there's a bedroom on the left and a bedroom on the right, and there's 4 total windows for those 2 rooms, you need at least 2 ladders. You can put one on the front of the Bravo side, towards the Bravo side, and then you can put one on the Delta side. But as long as I can get to a room and I know that one of those 2 windows is going to have a ladder, and that, to me, because we are in a limited staffing environment, it's one of those things where if I really get in a bad situation, that's not the time that I want people to be like, oh, well, I'm doing this. Now I got to stop doing this to go grab a ladder. And so for us, it was almost more of like, we wanted to hit that in the front end in case something bad happened down the road. We're not scrambling to find ladders to put them up because we don't have enough people.
Well, having that one ladder on each side, to me is the win, because if I appear in a window and there's no ladder there, all you have to do is flip if you're in an alley, or pick up and scoot down to where I am. And again, I'm picking on pictures I see on the internet, but you see 3 windows in a row. It's all the same room. It's a McMansion, right? It's a huge setback McMansion, and there's 3 windows, and it's ladder. I'm like, that's someone's McMansion bedroom with a lot of windows in it. We don't need ladders at every one of those. You wasted time putting 2 ladders up that you could have been doing something to affect the firefight, probably.
Sure.
When we look at, and 4 shifts in my department, it's all a little bit different. What I like to say when I'm the ladder officer, and I'm pretty sure that the current ladder officer is our D seat, so the 4th person on ladder, that's our outside vent person. Okay. To me, they need a 24-foot extension and a New York hook. They get it right off the back of the truck, and their first task is to get to the back of the building with that ladder and figure out, A, what's happening back there.
Right.
Maybe the chief didn't get to do the 360 because there's just too much going on. We have victims in that back window. Is there fire? And then throw that ladder up there for especially Division 2 or Division 3 fire. Not so much 1 yet, but at least have it there. So now the ladder's in the back. If they don't even put it up, at least it's back there. Because we deal with a lot of alleys, chain link fences, locks. I mean, there's just whatever it is to get there. If they can get a ladder back there, we're happy, and then work from where they have to work to next. We have a lot of porches. So, roof ladder right to the porch. They can get up there. They can vent enter search. The front windows are usually bedrooms.
Yeah.
So it's in that playing of, how things are going to be. When is it? Last night, the fire was at 6:10. While we were pulling lines, is this your house? This is me, because the chief had pulled past. He was right ahead of us. He hadn't been down there. Everybody out. Everybody's out. Exposure. Everybody out. The lady on the exposure had some not so kind words for us. I guess she felt we didn't get there fast enough as the fire was extending.
He always wants you to be quicker.
I always want you to be quicker. And even in why aren't you spraying water? And I'm like, I didn't get into it, but I remember thinking it after, or even as it was happening, like, okay, is everyone out? And she gave me a very resounding New Jersey answer to, like, what are you, stupid? The house is on fire. There's no one in there.
Right.
Like, we all left. way more colorful language than that. But putting that in, then they know that they know what's going to happen in there.
Yeah.
So their ladder roles are going to change. They're not going to do vent ender search if everyone is reported out type thing. Still going to search, but maybe not depending on how the situation is.
Sure.
But yeah, that ladder everywhere thing is again, people have said it, and you just have to keep it in perspective.
Yeah, and I think
How
all
you're
too
gonna do
often we're so literal. I mean, we take things so literally, you know,
it.
and so like even me, I caught myself. I mean, you kind of called me out on it, so I'll give you credit. But you called me out on it. Like I said, ladders at every window. And when you said that, I was like, oh, it's not really what I meant. Like not every single window has a ladder.
Every side, you want to get a
Every
ladder on
side.
every side, right? And I
So
think, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Like young kids, with these young kids, we can say that now. We're old men with mustaches, I guess, right? But they do take everything very literally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just a generation, and we have the same age kids, 10 and 7, and they. I mean, you can say anything, and they're going to do exactly the way you say it. But this 20 to 30-year-old crowd is sort of the same way still. So you have to be really careful when you say it. And when it comes to fitness, going back to like I can bring everything fire service wise back to fitness.
Oh, that's
too,
good.
but,
Yeah.
I have to be really careful when I say things because I don't want people to take it literally. And when I teach about what's your why, and when I teach about making yourself better, I have a slide, it's a disclaimer, and it literally says, what I am saying is not directed to anyone in this room. These are generalizations. And I'm like, and Zoom is a little bit easier because people hide themselves. They don't show their faces. But in classrooms, I say, if I'm even looking towards you, I'm not looking at you. I'm not talking to you specifically. Although you may think, oh my God, he saw me at the break drinking a Coke. So that's why he's talking about why sugary beverages are bad. It's like, bro, it's not you. It's not you. Like, just don't take it literally like that.
Yeah. I was teaching down in Oklahoma. God, there's so many things that are directly, we've just been in the same situations before, but I was teaching down in Oklahoma and I had a chief. I was talking about a generational differences class. And so I'm talking about relating to the younger generations if you're an older generation and being open-minded. And about halfway through this discussion, this chief in the back throws his pen down on the table and he goes, "You can just say it. You're talking about me." And I was like, "Sir, I don't even know who you are." And like his firefighter is there with him and he's nudging him. He's like, "Chief, the guy isn't talking about you. He doesn't even know you." And the chief's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he came up to me afterwards. He goes, "You literally were describing everything that I've done wrong in the last 5 years being the chief." He went from deputy chief to chief. And he goes, "You're literally describing everything that I've done. And I'm realizing that I've been doing it wrong." And I was like, okay, well, I'm glad you were here for the class. Like, I'm glad we got to talk about it. But yeah, it was.
It's that lifelong learner, right?
No.
You always have to be learning, and it's crazy. I'm going to pull this up because I posted it last night on social media, and I'm going to give my boys the credit for this one for sure. But I know you probably follow the Hook and Can on Facebook. It's some of my buddies here from Jersey. A guy who was a rookie with me. He's now a lieutenant, and this is his quote. This is Nick Racine's quote. "For those of you who think it can't happen to me, it's always the other guy. Just remember that everyone else, you are the other guy." And it's one of those things that like we're all in this together.
Yes.
And even throwing ladders. So I haven't been on the truck now steady in a long time. I did some occasional shift over there, and then I did a little stint as an officer. But when we had our last academy class through, I'm an instructor. And so they were pulling guys on duty to go work the academy. So we got the schedule and we got the syllabus, hey, review what you're going to be teaching. And I got pulled for ground ladders. And I'm like, when's the last time I threw a ground ladder? And now I'm like thinking to like fires, getting promoted. Generally, like I said, the ladder officer's doing the search. I'm like, then I'm on the engine. I'm like, well, it's probably been a solid year since I've thrown a ground ladder. And I'm like, so I go to work the next shift and I'm like, hey boys, we're gonna do a little training today. We're gonna throw some ground ladders. And then not only did I have to, go out and throw ground ladders with them just to get more familiar with it again, but I had to open the book because, in firefighter one, you have to learn that kneeling, twisting, lift up the ground ladder technique that I never used in my life aside from that. And in New Jersey, we went to the skills test. So that was one of their skills tests. And
Yep.
here I am. I'm like, I can't go. And I had another instructor with me. The main training officer was with me. But I'm like, I can't be a part of teaching these guys without reteaching myself. So then the next shift we go out and I'm like, here we go, guys. I'm going to do these ladder throws like we did in the academy. And they're like, but why? Like,
Yeah.
because I have to go teach them first off, and I don't want to look like an asshole, but it's nothing wrong to go back and remember those things, and I was totally away from that, Dave, like
Yeah.
totally not into that until that occurred.
Well, and I think, I teach at a community college and we have to teach, and I've spoken about this a lot in the past. We have to teach to the IFSA manual,
Yeah.
right? Like what we teach, I can't go in there and teach vent inner search the way that Dave Mellon wants to teach vent inner search. I have to teach it the way that they want us to. And I'm okay with that. But I feel so strongly that that has kept me really grounded and it has made me a better firefighter because I've never really forgotten how we came to where we're at now based off of where we started. And so even looking back at the different essential editions, it's like, man, remember when they used to teach this and somebody would go dig up the third or fourth edition and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, hey, here it is in the book. And we reread that chapter. I'm like, man, I can remember sitting at home drinking a beer during fire class, studying, reading that part. So yeah, it's definitely cool to
Yeah.
be able to.
Even yesterday at work, we did this entanglement training. I never did entanglement training the way we did it yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was really basic and really simple, but the two rookies, so the current training officer in my department was part of their main training cadre, right? The two rookies, they jumped up and went first really early on, and they did it. And then the rest of us did it, me included. And at the end, I was like, well, you guys did it the best. I was like, because you did it so recently, they've only been out of the academy a little over a year, but they drilled this technique to them in the academy that we were never even shown.
Right.
And so our struggles that we kind of, and I was really proud of myself and all the guys on my shift, at least the ones that I saw do it, because getting the pack off wasn't the problem. Getting the obstruction cleared wasn't necessarily a problem. Getting both straps back on that air pack. Yeah. Everybody ran into the same issues. And it's one of those, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. And nobody got frustrated to the fact that they were like, F this, all done. We all figured it out. But those rookies were so seamless. I'm like, listen, if you learn something in the academy that you think was cool and that can help the rest of us, tell me about it and let's do it. Because you don't know everything. You're teaching these kids new things, and let's learn it and get better together. And it was pretty awesome. It was fun to see that.
Yeah, which if you think about the cultural impact of what you just said, because you're not the first person that has said that, and I've talked to guys and gals all across the country. I'm hearing that more and more. And I love it because, when we got into the fire service, you and I, it was you're new, sit in the corner, shut up, don't say anything. And so, even if
mine was you're the EMS guy, you're going to do all the EMS. And I'm like, okay, I got you.
Yeah. And so like with us, I mean, I think we embrace that. And I'm starting to see more and more people who embrace that mindset of, hey, we're all here to share knowledge and experience and it's great.
Yeah. It's so funny. I tell this story a lot, or maybe not a lot, but when I was a brand new acting officer, I only had about maybe 5-6 years on a job. I just happened to hit the testing cycle, and the way it worked in my department changed a little bit, so we all got to share acting time. And my first day acting was with the two most senior guys on my shift on the engine. We had a 3-man company that day. And I was in their firehouse, which normally I would work at when they were off to just be the fill-in guy. And like legitimately that morning at the table, I was like, gentlemen, today I'm not your boss at all. I would like to call this acting by committee. So feel free to tell me how I should be doing this out here with you in your station and how you guys do it. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's going to be my, neck on the line if something goes wrong, but let's do this together. And first call I went on, our first due, and chief was going to be delayed. And I'm like, what? Come on, man. Is this? It wasn't a fire. I mean, it was a fire alarm at a developmental center. I can tell you exactly where the alarm was. But
Yeah.
as we're going there, I'm like, okay, boys, here we go. Let's do this one together. Like, what do you think I should be doing here? And that's again that lifelong, we're in this together, and that mentality, I feel like is changing. I'm seeing more and more people acting that way, and I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pip, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know we're going to have you back. Like there's certain people that just have that personality, and I have not struck out yet. Like it has just been awesome to have everybody on this show, you included. So I know we're going to have you back. Probably not to talk about fitness stuff anymore. We'll just talk about strictly fire. But
Listen, we're going to tie it together though, right? Because I think, again, let's go back to Jeremy, who I don't know. That motivation comes from tying it together.
yeah,
Your fitness should be just as important as your firefighting, and vice versa. So if you can keep it all tied together with that mentality, that's going to keep you going. And you kind of keyed in on this a little bit before when you said you didn't even know me and you hated me.
yeah,
It's probably
I
one of
did,
my most.
man.
It's one. So again, back to traveling. I'll be at a show, and now the people that are with 555 with me, they get it too, from people, but they picked up on it. And I'd be working the booth, and you'd see somebody kind of off in the distance, and they're looking, and they're like, and they're watching me, and then they disappear. Then they kind of lurk back around a little bit, and then they reappear. And so now, like, some of the 555 folks are like, "Oh, you got one coming, dude. You ready?" And I'm like, I got you. And they're like, I've been watching you on the internet, and I really just wanted to meet you, but like I'm also watching you here, so I wanted to make sure you were like a cool dude and laughing and having a good time. Cause I just want to say, like, I hate you. I hate you for what you put out there. I hate you for what you make me do and for how you make me do it. But I'm so happy to meet you at this time. But they're like scared to say that to me, like I'm some like, like you're scared of the bouncer at the bar. I'm like, dude, what's up, man? High five, let's hug. Like, I love meeting people. I even had guys, they wanted at FDIC, they asked if we could set up pictures of one had me in a headlock and the other was punching me. And they're like, we're
Seriously?
gonna put this in our gym at the firehouse because this is the motivation we need.
Dude, that's hilarious. Well, and it's so true though, because like even the first time that I met you in person, I walked up to you, and I mean, I was kind of gun shy anyway, but like I walked up and we're talking, and you're like, "Yeah, man, this is great," and and I'm like, "By the way, man, screw you, because I can't tell you how many times I've thrown up doing your crap workouts." And but at the end of the day, you've helped me change my physical fitness. You've helped motivate me to, you know, you're not a huge keto guy per se.
I'm not the guy to talk to about diet advice. I'll give
No,
you
no,
some
no, no.
advice,
But I
but I'm
mean,
not the person at all.
but you got
Yeah.
me, and I know there's so many hundreds of people out there, and even thousands of people out there, not unlike myself. But I mean, your motivation to get me to be motivated to start getting in shape got me into the keto stuff, which then made me lose over 100 pounds, which then made
Oh,
me, so I mean,
so
it's
proud of
one
you. Like,
big, and you're
yeah,
not the only
it's one
one.
big
Don't
snowball.
let your, huh?
Don't let my big head fool me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't get full of yourself
It
yet.
was
Okay, you're
just
not the
me.
only
All right.
one.
My bill's in the mail. My copay's in the mail. All right.
but you were part of that journey, and so again, I can totally see I can totally see where people love you
See,
but they
and
don't.
you're part of that journey for me, right? You motivate me again, like Jeremy. You motivate me to keep going, right? But I have people that send me workouts. I mean, daily, people are sending me workouts for sure for the past 5 years. But I have people that send me workouts, and I'm texting them back like, "I hate you. I hate you. I can barely like that." The amount of and I don't know if I know a lot of my friends do this, but when I do someone else's workout and I'm out afterwards, I'm usually sending a selfie that sometimes I'm trying to like, I'm laying on the ground and my arm is shaking.
You're doing this.
Yeah, yeah. Like, yeah, holding this arm with this arm to be like, I hate you, bro. What did you just do? And that's that tortoise and hare motivation, that let's go. You know what I mean? Like that's a big thing now in the street park community is full send. Like, oh, they put on the full send today. And dude, that's it, man. That's a full send. So you're that full send for me, just like I am for you. And that's harnessing the positive power of social media. And
Absolutely.
that's something that people like you have done. I feel like 555. I mean, the people I've met and the 555 team that I've met that I would have never met if it wasn't for that, it's just been unreal to me in so many ways. So
Yeah,
I thank
absolutely.
you. Thanks for having me. Like it's been a great talk. I actually wish we started recording when we first started talking because we
Yeah,
had
there
some
was so
gems in
much
there
stuff
too.
before that we totally like. We were talking about COVID. We were talking about like the Midwest versus the East Coast. Like there was
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah.
stuff that we talked about.
It's one of those things, and you pick this up, and I think too, it's just like the when you're scared to meet someone, right? Like I've been kind of scared. I've met some people that I'm like, oh my god, I'm shaking your hand. I've been following your stuff for years, since I was the 16-year-old volunteer on the rescue squad type thing, and now I get to meet you.
Yeah,
We all feel that, but when you step out of that comfort zone and you meet these folks and you get there, all these great things can happen. So just do it. Like that's
yeah,
if you got
absolutely.
it right, I guess.
Well, and I will say this. So I just posted on my personal Facebook page. I just posted a picture that I found from I think it was like FDIC 2016 or 17, one of the two. But it's me sitting at a table with, you know,
Oh, I
Mark Von
saw it. I saw that
Appen,
one.
and
Yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I saw that. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all these guys that I've looked up to my entire career, and I sit down at this table and I'm like, and I can't tell you who it was. I knew who it was when I told this story before, but I can't tell you honestly who it was now. But one of them turned to me and was like, "Hey, bro, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And they're like, "Because you've been sitting here for a half hour and you haven't said anything." And I'm like, "I just can't believe I'm sitting at this table with you guys. Like, I can't figure out how I was so lucky for the moons to align." And I'll never forget this. Brian Brush looked at me and he goes, "Dude, we all put our pants on the same way, man. Like we're all firemen. We're all
Yeah,
here." And it just put it into perspective for me that no matter where you come from, no matter and people like you and I, and there are people that aren't like us, but people like you and I, we're always going to be humble because we're always going to have that like, oh my God, that's so and so. Oh my God. We're
yeah,
like
yeah.
little
You're like
school kids.
fanboying out over something. Yeah, like
Yeah.
come on, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think it's just that again, it's that drive. And then I mean, I met Paul Combs in an elevator in Ohio, and we walked into the elevator, and I'm like, holy shit, you're Paul Combs, and he's like, holy shit, you Pip from 555, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, like me, like hold on a second here, like let's talk some more, buddy. But like that kind of stuff, that's that's just like when you get a fire, right?
Yeah.
Like how morale changes, everything goes up. It's that same feeling, and why people who aren't like us don't want to relish in it or don't want that experience. I'm sure they get it when they have a fire, but same type of thing, like that humility. And I feel like I'm not humble enough. It's kind of like when you're like, oh, don't get your head all big, like joking around and stuff. Like, even I have to think, even though I know you're just joking, we're laughing, I'm still thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, dude, I haven't come off like a tool again. Did I? Like, Pip, did
Yeah.
you come off like a tool? Because sometimes I come off like a tool. I can admit I'm from New Jersey. Like, I'm a tool. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. But that humility, like seeing things through my kids' eyes.
Yeah.
Even today, Facebook memory, we're really getting into it now, but Facebook memories with me and my little guy, Declan, in 2016. He's on my shoulders. We're at Epcot. It was our first day in Disney in 2016. And I'm like, look, buddy, like this was awesome. And it sucks we can't go to Disney this year. But I remember that trip and that feeling. And just that little bit of a picture brings me back. And maybe some stuff didn't go right at the fire last night. And I was pissed for a little bit. But things like that bring me back to just life, man. And this year and everything that's happened, you need those moments more now than ever. I need the gym. I need to go hit it hard today because I didn't hit it at the firehouse yesterday, so I need to
Right.
hit it hard, right? And then like again, nothing wrong with that, man. I'm doing two today. When we're done, I'm hitting one, and then when my wife comes home, we're gonna hit another one.
Nice.
That's
Nice. Yep.
the
I
win.
agree.
I like it. We gotta get me back on here some more. That's for sure. Send me
Absolutely.
a talk. Love me a
Absolutely.
talk.
So they can find you. Okay. So they can find you at 555fitness.com, right?
So 555fitness.org
Okay.
is that's the not for profit. They can donate there. I'm the worst person when it comes to running a not for profit and asking for donations. We just don't do it. But aside from the donation button, there are loads of resources there that we have kind of cultivated over 7 years to help people when they're lacking motivation. There's body weight workouts. There's the 343 hero wads. There are numerous programs with multiple levels you could follow. There's also links to our fitness partners. So if you're looking for good fitness equipment and fitness equipment that supports the mission of 555, they're all there. There's loads of great other websites that we put on there that we follow, so we're not the only folks out there. So that's 555fitness.org. If you want to follow, and don't forget Facebook, Instagram, 555fitness. We do not do Twitter because we've never done Twitter well.
I never got into the Twitter thing either.
I don't understand it. And I think I know why I don't understand it. But anyway, so that's 555. If you want to follow me personally, it's at 555pip. On Instagram is the easiest way to do it. Facebook, it's just basically direct post, and I think Instagram is just my kind of jam. Picture, blurb, some hashtags, and I can move on from it. Or you can follow me on my podcast at the_size_up on Instagram. You can listen to the podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those things, Apple, YouTube, and that's put on by National Fire Radio. So I'm also featured on their channels all around. We do live workouts. There's so many things to remember now that I'm trying to think of where you can find me, right?
You can't fit it on a business card.
Can't fit on a business card anymore. There's no more elevator speech, but we do live workouts. We were doing them every Friday, but that's kind of mixing around a little bit, but it's all on National Fire Radio's YouTube, and we post that on the 555 Fitness account when we're going live. And those have been this year for personal mental health, being able to work out with my friends from 555, people I've met on that circuit we talked about, and then new folks. We put up a thing. If you want to join us, fill out a form on YouTube or on our website, and we'll send you the link. Meeting folks and being able to interact, even though it's through a screen like you and I are now, we're still working out together. We're still sweating together. I don't do the workout very often. I'm the guy who talks, but sometimes they make me do the workout. Like on my birthday, they made me do this horrible workout. And these never mean, dude. My people, you talk about, hating people. I know who to hate for that one. She's gonna pay after when it's her birthday. We're gonna double because she's so much younger than me. We're like triple her age in reps, let's say. But that's it. I'm all over the place these days.
That's awesome, man. Well, and I've followed you since the beginning, and I've loved everything that you've done. So everybody that's watching, definitely follow Pip, follow 555 Fitness. Even if when I started following you, I wasn't super into the fitness stuff and the working out. And I'm still probably not where I should be, but
nobody is.
Yep. But to watch and just see your stuff pop up every once in a while, it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to try that. And so it's so cool that we've connected and become friends like this and actually gotten to meet in person. So follow Pip, follow 555 Fitness. I'm going to put links to all your stuff down in the description, and we'll definitely have you back on.
You totally made me think of something else now too, saying that, because we would have people, again, meeting people or even on the internet, but they'd be like, I want one of your shirts, because when we started, apparel was the way we were able to give away the grants, and things have changed a little bit now. We still do stuff with West Broad Apparel, does our hats and our t-shirts, but apparel was a big deal for us at the shows because firemen love t-shirts, right? So you'd get people and they would say, I really want to buy one of your shirts, but I'm not a fitness guy. Like you just said, right? Because the shirt said, mostly they all say 555 Fitness. Even though we're kind of like Starbucks now, we just do the 555 sometimes. And I'd be like, what do you mean you're not a fitness guy? You don't want to buy my shirt? Well, I got I don't want this to be hanging out. And I'm like, buy the shirt, do more fitness.
Yeah.
And you'll become a fitness guy, and then buy a smaller shirt and you'll feel even better about yourself. Or if you're putting on muscle, you need a bigger shirt because you're so swole from the muscles. Like, everybody's a fitness guy. This shirt isn't for the elite fitness, whoever those folks are out there. It's for everyone. 555 represents all of us. And that's the ultimate message I can kind of get across. And you said it, and it totally resounded to me that you weren't a big fitness guy, but look what you've done in like 2 years now, right? It's been
it's been about a year and 9 months, year and 10 months.
It's really hard to keep track of people specifically. I feel like a tool for not knowing what I should know about other folks. But even when you reminded me of that, I'm like, I kind of forgot that was his story. Like we've been talking for so long, and
Bro, I'm
Yeah.
literally a nobody from nowhere. Like nobody should know my story. It's not, but yeah, I mean, it's
Everybody should know your story.
yeah, but no, it's been a fun journey. It's been cool, and we'll see where it goes.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for having me. We're going
Yeah,
to end it on that note. High notes always, for sure.
absolutely. All right, until the next time we see you guys, take care, be safe, wash your hands, and we'll talk to you soon.